All right, my name is John Brannon. That's John. Last name is Brannen. I'm a senior air safety investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board. So, obviously, as you know, yesterday we had an accident that happened at the air show here. A MiG-23 aircraft was performing at the air show, and the initial reports are that the airplane had engine difficulties. The pilots ejected, and the airplane crashed here in the field. I arrived this morning on scene and started the NTSB's investigation of the accident. The first phase of the accident, we've documented the scene, the accident scene here, and we're arranging to have a recovery crew come get the airplane so that we can do further examination off-site. Right now, all of the information that we have is very preliminary, and we can't really draw any conclusions from what we know at this point, and that'll take several months before we can get further into the investigation. At this point, I can open it up to any questions you may have.
Were the pilots able to tell you what happened? Did they lose power, or can you describe what they've told you?
So I have not spoken with the pilots directly, but the information I have from the FAA is that the pilots, like I said, they declared an emergency. They had some engine loss of power issues, and were not able to correct that, and elected to eject from the airplane.
How soon did these issues start?
I'm not aware of that at this point.
I'm asking, as a novice here, in terms of protocol, was their goal to obviously have a safe landing somewhere, I assume, and they make the decision that's not going to happen, or can you give us some texture here as to what occurred?
Again, it's very early in the investigation, and since I have not spoken with the pilots directly, I can't really speculate on that.
When you look at just how close it came to the apartment complex, what goes through your mind?
It's very fortunate that, of course, that nobody on the ground was injured. In this case, we have a fairly large airplane, and the fact that both pilots survived and there were no ground injuries is a very good outcome.
What's the protocol here in terms of contaminants, things along?
So the Environmental Protection Agency does have people on site that will address the any fuel contamination issues, things like that.
So what's going on here on scene?
So, like I said, when I arrived on scene, I did photo documentation. Because of the complexity of this airplane, we can't really do a whole lot of examination of the aircraft itself here on scene. So we'll have to have the airplane moved so that we can do further examination off-site. So the work that we did this morning was just to photo document what the impact point, where the airplane traveled after the impact, and things of that nature. And so we will get the airplane moved and do more examination later on.
As best you can was the plane evidently heading north to land or fly over at the airport? And then can you give us an idea of from where they ejected, how much further the wreckage came? Or as far as your examination of the scene, can you describe what happened and what they were attempting to do?
Okay, so the information I have is that the airplane had made one pass down the air show line, which is along the runway 23, I believe, at the airport, and it had made one pass and was circling around to make another pass. There were going to be 3 passes total, which culminated in landing, and when they were circling around for the second pass is when they experienced the difficulties. After they ejected, the airplane impacted the ground over here, and it traveled about 500 feet. After the initial impact point, went through some trees and wound up here next to the apartment building.
Any idea of the speed of the craft?
No, not at this time.
Can you speak to some of the challenges of this investigation? What makes it unique, particularly starting with the fact this is a Russian aircraft?
Yes, that's the being a military aircraft and on top of that a Russian military aircraft is going to make things a little bit more difficult for us. We do have experts in Washington on turbine engines and things like that. I plan to employ their assistance with doing engine examinations, component examinations, things like that. But the fact that it is a Russian military airplane and there's no what we refer to as a type certificate. Civilian airplanes have a type certificate which kind of details everything, and you have manufacturers that you can go to get assistance with examination of the airplane, and this definitely will make this more difficult.
How much dialogue have you been able to have with the pilot at this point?
I have not spoken with the pilot myself at all yet, but the FAA has interviewed the pilot and the observer that were in the airplane.
From your experience, how quickly do pilots have to make the call that this plane is going down, we have to eject?
Well, that depends on many factors. One being altitude, speed, the type of airplane. So I can't really speculate on how much time these pilots had to make that decision. But all those different factors kind of play a role in that. So it varies from case to case.
Can you speak to how remarkable it is that it did not take out this entire building here and cause more destruction?
Yeah, the fact that it didn't hit the building directly, that's very fortunate, very fortunate.
How large of a issue brought it by debris field? I mean, obviously you see right here, but how large are you all searching?
So the debris field, like I said, from the initial impact point to where the main wreckage came to rest by the apartment building here is about 500 feet long. So there's wreckage, smaller pieces of wreckage scattered all along that path.
What are you able to ascertain from that video initially when you looked at it? What are your takeaways?
I have only seen one video of the accident, and it was just very briefly. I came from the Chicago area last night, so I spent most of my time traveling rather than looking at videos, so I can't really speculate.
How common are these accidents at air shows?
I really can't. I don't have the statistics to be able to comment on that.
Do you have any background on the aircraft as far as how old it is and maybe who owned it? I'm assuming that's obviously the attraction of it being here.
Yeah, the information I have right now is that the airplane was manufactured in 1981. The owner of the airplane was the pilot. As far as any other information, it's still a little too early.
And are you identifying the pilot or where he's from?
No, NTSB we don't provide.
Can you speak to the conditions of the pilot? I don't know if you mentioned it already.
You okay?
All I can say is that the pilot has serious but not life-threatening injuries. The observer had minor injuries.
Is there any thought, and I know it's early, in regard to air shows and then traffic of aircraft over residential areas, is there a concern here? Was it any first impressions of if it was appropriate, inappropriate, where they were flying? Stuff happens. Help me.
Yeah. No. We those will all be factors that we look at as the investigation goes on, but I can't really speculate on them right now.
How much time do you anticipate something like this taking before you get definitive answers?
So the way the NTSB process works is a preliminary report, which details some of the facts and circumstances. We know them will come out within about 10 days. However, the factual report and the probable cause could take up to 2 years for a final report.
Forgive me if you've answered, but the fact that it's a Russian-made plane, does it make it more challenging?
Oh yeah.
Can you give us a little context to the layperson as to why that's a little more difficult?
When we have an accident involving even Ford-made products that are supported by the manufacturers, we can get assistance from those manufacturers to assist us in our investigation. In this case, I'm not sure what kind of support we'll be able to get for basically a retired Russian military airplane. I'm not sure what we can get as far as support in that regard.
Do you anticipate an obvious challenge here in terms of the Russian government being of any help to you?
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Residents have said that police have been out here all night.
So the information I have right now is that the earliest that the residents would be allowed back into the building would be tomorrow. We are, as I said, we're looking to find insurance information so that we can contract a salvage company to recover the wreckage. The recovery, once the salvage team gets here, will take about a day. But you know, we need to find out the insurance aspects and things like that first.
So forgive me, will the wreckage be moved in the next couple of days, or you really don't know?
That's our intent. But we'll have to wait and see how things transpire.
I know you've been asked this a couple of ways already, but as I walked up and saw this like everybody else, I was floored. I mean, any other comment in regard to what nearly occurred here?
No, I mean, like I said, it's just very fortunate that we didn't have any ground injuries, and you know, we're thankful for that.
The pilot with the more serious injuries, was he able to clear the canopy, or was his injury from the fall?
I'm not sure what exactly caused his injuries. All I know is that he had some more serious injuries.
Do you have planned any further updates or not?
I don't have any planned at this point. As I said, our investigation, you know, the on-scene portion here is pretty much done, because it's basically just on-scene documentation of the scene, and we'll be doing more of the meat of the investigation of the airplane itself in an off-site location.
And did you say how long of a debris field it was? You said it traveled 500 yards, I believe, but is there debris spread?
About 500 feet.
I'm sorry.
500 feet, and there's wreckage all the way from the start, the initial impact point, all the way to the building here. So smaller pieces of debris in the initial part of the debris field, with the bulk of the wreckage right here by the airplane.
And I'm assuming that because the plane is so large, that's why you guys have to hire a salvage company. You guys have the resources to do it, right?
Correct. The NTSB, we don't do the salvage ourselves. We don't do the salvage ourselves. We rely on salvage contractors to do that.
Sir, can you get your name and title one more time?
Yes, my name is John Brannon. That's JOHN BRANNEN, and I'm a senior air safety investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board.
All right, just wrapped up.
All good?